Hiroo Onoda, the last soldier of World War II. In 1974, a story emerged from the jungles of Lubang Island in the Philippines that seemed to defy time itself. Hiroo Onoda, a Japanese soldier, stepped out of the shadows, still waging World War II, 29 years after Japan's surrender in 1945. His saga of unyielding loyalty, survival against unimaginable odds, and refusal to accept defeat captivated the world, raising profound questions about duty, honor, and the human spirit's capacity to endure. Born on March 19, 1922, in Kamekawa, a rural village in Wakama Prefecture, Japan, Hiroo Onoda grew up in a society bound by the Bushido Code, a samurai ethos emphasizing loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. His father, a former cavalry officer, instilled discipline, while his mother, a teacher, nurtured his sense of duty. As a boy, Onoda excelled in kendo, mastering swordsmanship, and dreamed of serving the emperor. In 1940, at 18, he enlisted in the Imperial Japanese Army, driven by a patriotic fervor sweeping Japan during its militaristic rise. By 1944, Onoda was selected for the elite Nakano School, a secretive academy training officers in guerrilla warfare, espionage, and survival. The curriculum was grueling. Students learned to live off the land, sabotage enemy infrastructure, and resist interrogation. Onoda's instructors drilled a mantra into him: never surrender, never take your own life, and hold your ground until the army returns. In December 1944, the 22-year-old lieutenant was deployed to Lubang, a small, rugged island 150 kilometers southwest of Manila, with orders to disrupt Allied operations and gather intelligence. When American and Filipino forces invaded Lubang in February 1945, the Japanese garrison collapsed. Most soldiers surrendered or were killed, but Onoda refused to yield. With 3 comrades, Private Yuichi Akatsu, Corporal Shoichi Shimada, and Private First Class Kinshichi Kozuka, he fled into the island's dense jungles. Their mission evolved into a desperate struggle for survival, fueled by an unshakable belief that Japan was still fighting. They scavenged bananas, coconuts, and wild yams, stole rice from villages, and hunted small game. To avoid detection, they moved camps frequently, navigating Lubang's 200 square kilometers of jungle, mountains, and swamps. The group's isolation bred paranoia. They clashed with locals, mistaking farmers and fishermen for Allied spies, and killed approximately 30 islanders in raids over the years. These acts, born of their belief in an ongoing war, left Lubang's residents in fear, dubbing Onoda's group the Mountain Devils. In 1945, leaflets announcing Japan's surrender rained from the sky, but Onoda dismissed them as propaganda. "The Allies are cunning," he later wrote in his memoir, No Surrender. Family letters, photos, and loudspeakers urging surrender were deemed forgeries. In 1949, Akatsu, weakened and demoralized, surrendered to Philippine authorities, but Onoda, Shimada, and Kozuka saw it as weakness, vowing to continue. Life in the jungle was a test of endurance. Onoda's uniform rotted, so he wove patches from hemp and palm fibers, preserving the tattered remnants as a symbol of duty. His Arisaka Type 99 rifle, meticulously oiled with coconut oil, remained functional, as did the dagger his mother gave him, a reminder of his vow to never die dishonorably. He built bamboo shelters, hidden under thick canopies, and memorized patrol routes to evade Philippine police and military sweeps. Typhoons battered their camps, malaria and dysentery plagued them, yet Onoda's discipline held firm. "I was trained to survive," he told ABC News in 1974. "Giving up would betray my orders and my family's honor." In 1954, tragedy struck. Shimada, Onoda's closest comrade, was killed in a shootout with a Philippine patrol during a raid on a village storehouse. Onoda and Kozuka buried him under moonlight, their resolve unshaken. They continued their guerrilla campaign, burning rice fields and stealing livestock, believing they were disrupting enemy supply lines. In 1965, they found a transistor radio and heard Japanese broadcasts, but Onoda interpreted news of Japan's recovery as coded messages urging them to persist. By 1972, only Onoda and Kozuka remained. That October, they attempted to sabotage a village harvest, but police ambushed them, killing Kozuka. Onoda, now alone, retreated deeper into the jungle, a ghost declared dead by Japan in 1959. Onoda's solitude intensified his mental fortress. He conducted daily rituals, cleaning his rifle, reciting military codes, and praying for Japan's victory. He studied the stars to navigate, tracked seasons to time raids, and avoided traps set by locals. One night in 1967, he overheard villagers discussing the Apollo moon landing, but dismissed it as American propaganda. Lubang's residents, meanwhile, lived in terror, avoiding jungle trails where Onoda's shadow loomed. His raids disrupted fishing and farming, and some families abandoned their homes, fearing the ghost soldier. Onoda wasn't the only holdout. Across the Pacific, dozens of Japanese soldiers refused to believe the war had ended, driven by the same imperial loyalty. On Guam, Sergeant Shoichi Yokoi hid in a cave for 28 years, emerging in 1972 wearing clothes woven from bark. On Morotai, Private Taro Nakamura, an indigenous Taiwanese soldier, surrendered in 1974, unaware of Japan's defeat. These holdouts reflected a fading era when surrender was unthinkable, rooted in Japan's militaristic culture and the emperor's divine status. By 1974, Onoda was among the last, a living relic of a war the world had moved past. In February 1974, Norio Suzuki, a 24-year-old Japanese adventurer, arrived on Lubang, driven by a whimsical quest to find Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman. After weeks of searching, he spotted Onoda at dusk by a river, gaunt but upright, rifle in hand. Suzuki showed newspapers, photos, and even a Japanese flag, pleading that the war was over. Onoda, wary, demanded orders from his commander, fearing a trap. Suzuki returned to Japan, and the government located Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, Onoda's former officer, now a quiet bookseller in Tokyo. On March 9, 1974, Taniguchi flew to Lubang and met Onoda in a jungle clearing. Reading from a formal order, he relieved Onoda of duty. The 14th Area Army is to cease all combat activity. Onoda saluted, tears in his eyes. The next day, March 10, 1974, Onoda surrendered at a radar base in Lubang's capital, San Jose. Dressed in his patched uniform, he handed over his sword, rifle, 500 rounds of ammunition, several grenades, and a map of his hideouts. At a ceremony in Manila, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos pardoned him for the killings, recognizing that Onoda genuinely believed the war continued. The pardon was controversial. Lubang's residents mourned their losses, but Marcos saw Onoda as a soldier bound by duty, not malice. Onoda's return to Japan was a spectacle. On March 12, 1974, he landed in Tokyo, greeted by 8,000 cheering fans waving rising sun flags. Television crews swarmed him, and newspapers hailed him as a symbol of samurai spirit. But the Japan he returned to was unrecognizable. Skyscrapers, pop culture, and a pacifist constitution had replaced the militaristic empire he fought for. I felt like a stranger, he wrote in No Surrender, my 30-year war. Modern Japan's consumerism and apathy toward tradition shocked him. Young people mocked his sacrifice, while others saw him as a relic of a shameful past. Disillusioned, Onoda struggled to adapt. In 1975, he moved to Brazil, joining a Japanese immigrant community in Mato Grosso to become a cattle rancher. The quiet life suited him, but he missed Japan's spirit. In 1984, he returned and founded the Onoda Nature School, teaching children survival skills, discipline, and resilience, values he felt Japan's youth lacked. He married, wrote his memoir, and lectured worldwide, never apologizing for his actions. "I don't consider those 29 years a waste," he said in 2010. "They shaped who I am." Onoda's story is a paradox. His loyalty was heroic to some, tragic to others. He embodied Bushido's ideals, yet his raids caused suffering, leaving Lubang's residents with scars that linger. The Philippine government's pardon didn't erase their pain, and some families still resent his name. His tale challenges us. When does duty become obsession? How does a soldier know the war is over when his heart refuses to believe it? Onoda died in 2014 at 91, at peace with his choices, but forever tied to Lubang's jungles. Other holdouts' stories echo Onoda's. On Anatahin, 20 Japanese soldiers and one woman hid until 1951, torn by infighting and paranoia. On Tinian, Captain Sake Oba led 200 men in guerrilla resistance until 1945's end, surrendering only when ordered. These men, like Onoda, clung to a code that defined their world, unable to see it had collapsed. Their stories reveal the cost of blind loyalty and the resilience of the human will. What does Onoda's life teach us? Is it a lesson in unwavering commitment or a warning about clinging to the past? His 29 years in the jungle were a testament to discipline, but at what cost? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover more forgotten stories from history's shadows. Stay curious, stay inspired, and let's keep exploring the past together.